Good morning, everyone. It's your girl, Miss Little Cole, and I'm coming to you straight out of NYC on this still hot Monday early morning at midnight. So, I'm still doing my P-Valley Season 1 review. So, I'm on episode 3. And this episode is called Higher Ground, and I'm going to be reviewing this one, okay? Now, with this review, I'm going to go really into the whole backdrop of Promised Land Casino, because reviewing it, I learned a lot again, even more than before. So it was a lot of scenes. It was about 15 or 16 scenes, maybe 17. So I'm going to break it down scene to scene. So the first scene, we see Mercedes at the Pynk dancing, doing a private set. At her private dance, even though it's out in the open on the main stage, she's doing it with the coach. So she's doing this private dance for the coach, whose coaches the NFL. Now, here's the thing. He wants her to basically move up and do better. So he's like, you should have moved out of here and moved to to ATL. And she was like, no, I need to stay here because her obligation is to a particular person, her family, and it ain't her mother. So he's like, I'll take you to Memphis, and you could be at every game front and center, and I'll have you up in the skybox, And so basically, we find out he's married, and she basically lets him know, so that everybody could whisper that you cheating on your wife with me. And so he's like, nah, nobody's going to know. And so she says, fantasy is cheap. Meaning like you could pay me money for doing these private dances and talk about how you want to take me all these places, but you cannot afford me in real life. So it cuts out to where you see all the girls get on stage and dance. Now, the guy who plays the coach for the NFL, he's the original one. He's not the one from season 2 this season. This one is the guy who ended up playing the producer and manager on Queens. And I'm going to say, I actually like this one better. But hey, to each his own. So then we see scene 2, and Autumn is purchasing wigs for working at the Pynk, and she's shopping those wigs with Gidget. And Gidget is an easy going, getting along type of person. And they seem to, respect one another. And Gidget encourages her to purchase the blonde one. And she says, my mom says a stripper always have to have her looks. So we kind of learned that her mother at one time did exotic dancing. So she picks this blonde wig out for her. And not only does Autumn buy it, but she rocks it, and she rocks it pretty good. So we basically see Andre looking at photos of Haley while he's basically messaging her about last night and how it was fun. And then he gets a phone call for Bill, this man named Bill, to talk about the Promised Land deal. Like, how's everything going? Because the man Bill, he's the one that's basically the proprietor of Promised Land, and Andre is an attorney who's working for him to broker this deal, okay, to bring this casino and resort down to Chickalisa. So the fourth scene, we see Autumn basically getting her money up and drinking, and she got this blonde wig, and Autumn at first is doing good. She's, basically getting her customers, whatever, getting money from them and whatnot. But we learned something about Autumn. When Autumn basically drinks, she gets heavily intoxicated really quick. And that's not by happenstance that the writer wrote that. And yes, it does happen to do with what she went through, with the loss of a child. And that's really sad. But also, it's an imply that women and men who are light-skinned or mixed have a harder time controlling their liquor. Whereas dark-skinned people, it's this myth that they basically can control their liquor more. Now, also, her being mixed plays a part in it. Because remember, in the first episode, Uncle Clifford said, you got a nice ass, light skin, got good hair, and, but you got a little bit of titties, and you pretty in face. And then she said, oh, I got Indian meat. The Indians, basically, in this country, Native Americans, their weakness was alcohol. So the alcohol basically made a lot of them alcoholics. They were they had a pure system. And then, so when they came in contact with them, it basically, they can't even drink beer. And that's probably what they was implying, that her heritage makes her weak of alcohol. So I noticed that. So we go into scene 5, and we see, after they do the play and song or whatever, and pretty much we see Uncle Clifford, he wants to know about the tea of the casino. And she's like, I don't have any information. No tea, no ID. So pretty much it then cuts into where Mayor Tydell, I can't stand him, played by Isaiah Washington, he says something like, "Oh, Batala Ogun." So Andre's like, huh? And he's like, you got to free the God. So he's pouring the liquor. And so he's basically mocking. Like, how you pour the liquor for, like, this is for all the homies who ain't here anymore. He's basically pouring the liquor because Mississippi is about, well, at least the Delta part is about to change. So he's pouring it for a send-off for the old to open the new. So we learned that Mayor Tydell Ruffin is Andre's godfather, okay? And so he basically was growing up in Chucalissa. And when he was about 7 or 8 years old, he moved out of there and he ended up in Georgia, Atlanta, or the Atlanta area. And what happened is he's gotten married to his wife and he came back to Chucalissa for the Promised Land Casino deal. Now, he works there, he works for the man Bill. And Mayor Tydell Ruffin is basically, he wants to know, how's everything going. And so he basically lets him know what's really going on. And so what happens is he tells him the history about the Kyle brothers, Wayne and Wyatt. And he tells him that Wayne and Wyatt are on board to sell, but Corbin wants to lease. And Andre even admits, after thinking about the conversation they had, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. So he's basically like, I did not send you down here to talk about some leasing. I need that sell. So he basically tells him that the Wyatts, not the Wyatts, I always say the Wyatts because they don't like the last name, the Kyle brothers helped him to get elected. Okay? So we learned something about this. Andre's like, why do they need to even sell the land? Why are they involved in this whole Promised Land casino deal? Their land is not needed because it doesn't sit at the waterfront. The only land that's needed to be built on Promised Land Casino is the pink land. So the land that Uncle Clifford owned, that's on the paint in the club, that's the only thing they need. The land from the cow farm is not necessary to build for Promised Land Casino. So what's really going on? Why are they involved in this deal? And why do they want to sell it for $6 million? And that's when we learn that the Kyle brothers, sans Corbin, helped nasty Mayor Rydell donate to his campaign. So what he's doing is he's basically promised the Kyle brothers that he was going to hook him up since they donated the gifts to help me get elected. So that's when Andre's like, wait a minute, Godfather, is it a gift or a kickback? And Andre, he's like, hold on, Andre, you didn't have an issue when Promised Land was giving me as Tydell a few $100s for that part. And he's like, no. You said it was a good faith gesture to rebuild the town. And you never said it was going to have your name on it. And he was like, judging how things work around here, that's how it is. This is how it goes down in the Delta. You see, what we learn is that the Kyle brothers are part of the Cotton Connect. Basically, they go way back to slave days. Remember episode 2? They mentioned the plantations, cotton plantation. And Wayne Kyle, he runs the city council. And Andre says, I guess they don't call it the Dirty Delta South for nothing. And he says, you gotta please this council so we won't have to have no citywide vote. Because if the city of the people ends up voting on the casino, it ain't going to go through because many of them are Bible thumpers. And if the Bible thumpers find out about the casino, it's going to send it straight to hell, meaning it's not going to get passed. So Mayor Tydell says you got to keep this a secret, Andre. And he says something profound, which is the gods are about to shake the mess out of Mississippi. Remember, that thing that he said about the Ogun and that he poured the liquor, that was a ritual sending the gods out to basically shake up and to move out the old, which is the people, to bring in the new money, the white money, to make Chucalissa prosperous. Because Mayor Tydell, and this is what I'm going to get in more of, Mayor Tydell does not like black people. He don't like them. Mayor Tydell is the epitome of a crooked politician who is a black man, or a black man who is a crooked politician, whichever way it goes. He would rather kick back the deal to the Kyle brothers, meaning knowing that their land is not needed for the deal to basically make Promised Land Casino and Resort happen. Okay? He would rather them get $6 million than for his own cousin, Clifford, and other relatives that's in that area that owns the pynk get money. Because remember, the pynk is a land they only need. Uncle Clifford, why aren't you offering him money? You making it a secret. You don't want him to have anything with the deal. You just want them to take the property. You know? Eminent domain. But you don't even want to pay your own cousin who's black any money for the property. Whether you think the pynk is nasty or a fun place, that's how you're supposed to do business. The Kyle brothers have nothing to do with that land. Their land has nothing to do with the casino. The casino is not needed. Why are they going to get $6 million? And Corbin is smart. It's like, hey, let's lease it and make 10. And Andre's listening to him and flashbacks and like, you making more sense than your brothers. But we want to find out why they really need it. But the whole justification is a big thing with this season of season 1. And for those that haven't seen it, you will understand the backdrop, the tug and war. And Mayor Tydell ain't shit. And Wayne Kyle running city council, it's very, very indicative of the white supremacy system still being in control of the South. They was part of the old Cotton Connect, meaning slavery. And then they basically got pardoned to still run post-Reconstruction. The Kyle brothers might have family in the KKK. Hell, boy, I don't know, they might be in that shit too. They want to make money off of a deal that ain't got nothing to do with them, but their land is not needed for the deal. But they want that $6 million. So you gonna learn why. So we go to scene 7 where Big L and Diamond are talking, smoking, and Autumn is basically leaving the club for the night, and it's raining outside. And Big L's like, you need an umbrella. And she's like, oh, I'm good. And Diamond don't really trust Autumn, but he does offer her a cigarette. And so what happens, she get a message, and it's from Telex. And it's a final notice saying, bring your government ID for the cash pickup. So she notices that Andre is calling her, and we see them meeting at this diner known as Taffy's. So they discussing, like talking and so forth. And then he's like basically saying, I live in Atlanta. I was here, and then I was a little kid, I moved out. And so she sees the ring on her finger, and she was like, and how long you been married to your wife? And so he's like, a couple of years. So the wife and him live in Atlanta. He's staying over in Chucalissa for a couple of weeks to finalize his deal for the Promised Land Casino and Resort. So they basically talking about Kindred and Patamaker, because she said the closest I've been to ATL was a Freaknik festival and so forth, when she was young. So they talk about the casino, and then he tells her, I'm not at liberty to speak on confidential matters. And the confidential matter is, I can't let you know that the pynk is basically going to be up for auction. Like, the pynk is not going to be part of this deal. And she wants to know more. She was like, I can keep my mouth shut. I understand business very well. So, Autumn ends up talking to his old man. And she basically, in front of the old man, pretends to be Andre's significant other. So he ends up, basically, I think it's Andre that tells them about the site to see the mounds. The old man mentioned the mounds. And then he tells the story of two Choctaw brothers walking their people down the south in search of new land. And each night, they would plant a stick in a new ground. And when they would wake up, whichever way the stick was pointing was the way they would go the direction the next day. And they kept going that way and doing it for 100 years. And then basically, they got tired because they would carry the people who departed on their back. And the man says, imagine carrying the dead on your back. And then what happens is that they end up seeing a stick that was pointed straight up. And he said, all she wrote was, hey, this is going to be our new home. So they laid their bones down at this place. And the Choctaw brothers basically made Chucalissa their home. Choctaw. Maybe that's how you get Chucalissa. And where their bones are and where they stayed is at the same location where Taffy's diner is. And he pointed right there. So what happens is we see the Trinity coming in, which is Mercedes, Keyshawn, and homegirl Gidget. And Mercedes like, I'm going to get the lumberjack special, please. And, Autumn's like, I want to see the mounds. And so Andre pays for their meals and leaves because it's like, y'all crashing into my space. I'm just going to go. So we learned that Keyshawn got 2 regulars. One, he does some other type of work, but another one is an anesthesiologist. And Mercedes, we know her regular is the coach. And so they think that Andre is Autumn's manager regular, but he's really not. He basically only went to that club one time. And they swear up and down that they effing. And then Gidget basically was like, I made my regular my boyfriend. And she was like, that's that white girl magic. And Keyshawn's like, hey. And what we kind of learn about Keyshawn in them flashback moments is that Keyshawn basically has an affinity for whiteness. Okay? And maybe that's why her and Keyshawn are best friends. I'm sorry, not Keyshawn. Her and Gidget are best friends. So then we basically see a scene. This is scene 9. Now, this scene is a very important one also. So Corbin and Cliff have been friends since childhood, elementary school to be exact. And Cliff is visiting Corbin at the cow farm. And Corbin is picking cotton with the use of a tractor. So what you're seeing is that Corbin does a lot of work on the farm. He might be the bastard child of the maid, but he's the one that values the land and keeps it going. So Clifford is like, okay, so who's this guy that you was talking business to in my club? And so he was like, oh, we was doing business, you know. He's like, so you speaking to the enemy? You brought the enemy into my club and you consorting with the enemy at the pynk, so to speak. And so Corbin says, well, I'm the only person in town you could trust. No, Clifford said, I'm the only person in town you could trust. I never told any of your secrets. And so he's like, ears are more open than legs at the pynk. So then Corbin spills the tea. He said, the casino wants to buy the land. But I, as in Corbin, I want to lease it. I'm trying to get the brothers to lease it. And they offering serious stacks. Now, here's where we get the gist of why Wayne and Kyle wanted Mayor Tydell to give them that kickback to include them into the whole Promised Land casino deal. Wayne and Kyle blew their inheritance. So they raised to basically offload every acre. So they ready to sell. And they basically trying to they trying to get the $6 million at all costs. Now, Corbin, the mulatto, half biracial, half white brother, is trying to convince them to hold on to it. Okay? So he basically says, like you always tell your girls, you know, what you always tell them. So Cliff is like, oh, closed legs still gets fed. And he was like, no. So he tells them the rule. Oh, you mean no change in the G string, only dollars? Exactly. Why make $1 when you can make 10 million? And Cliff's like, whoa, hush now. Wait, you talking $1 million? He was like, yep. He said, that's that legacy money. That's that private school money. And he was like, that's that money. That's what Cliff said. That's that money. And so he was like, things at the pynk gonna be across the casino. So he think as in the pynk is going to be included in part of this whole deal. But Corbin don't want to hurt him. He don't want to let him down and tell the truth about it. And so we learn that I see what patients do. This is what Cliff says. You had to wait until your daddy died to be recognized. Excuse me. The son of the maid is keeping the plantation going. If that ain't reparations, I don't know what is. I see you kept that secret of mine going since elementary school. So they were friends. So the secret was that you the bastard son of good old boy Johnny Kyle. Yeah. And he says, see there, this tongue stay tied. Now get back to picking cotton. Oh, and by the way, get some sunscreen because we don't want you to get any blacker. And so Cliff, and this is my part, Cliff says, PUSSYVALLE, Pussy Valley, baby. Ooh, child, gonna get that money. And I just love that scene. Now, I'm gonna talk about this. This was important because this young black man, biracial, saw the importance and value of preserving a land that has dirty history to it. You would think that he would want to sell it because it's a bad reminder of how he was never accepted as part of the family. But his father loved him and put him in the will, which is what's really preventing the sale of the cow farm to go through, because the father realized that that was his good child. It's that old story of sometimes the one that you really don't accept turn out to be your best child. And the one with the black mama turned out to be that one. Not the ones who had the white mother, the one with the black mother. And that is a form of reparations. Because the bastard child of the maid, which if it was slavery days, would have been the slave or the bedwench, is the one that's going to preserve the legacy. Because Wayne and Wyatt don't give a shit. They don't care about their white daddy. But this black biracial boy does. So we go into scene 10. And we basically see Pastor Phony Patrice is rehearsing and, talking all this stuff and practicing. And she's talking about neighbor. Look to your neighbor and say neighbor. And Mercedes walks in and said neighbor. And so she was like, I got my loan approved. So since you got it approved, run me my 20 stacks. And she's like, what you going to use it for, Mercedes? I'm going to use it for the gym. And I just need y'all to cut the check. You got the loan. Give me my money. So Patrice, basically says, I'll cut you the check and you can pick it up tomorrow. So she hugs her and she goes on about her business. Now, the next scene, you see the girls from the Chuckalisa Challengers. They on Snapchat. And so she's like, y'all was shaking your butts. And y'all basically had y'all was wearing the gym uniforms for the team. And she's like, you know what? This could get us out of, like the tournaments and stuff. And so this girl going, this feminist friend, and was like, I don't think that we should be judged about, we should be allowed to express ourselves. You're judging us. And this is all this like higher, male patriarchy and so forth. And so she was like, oh, really? She was like, F your feminism. And so Terica's like, but wait a minute. You do that stuff too. And she says, but at least I get paid for mine. Y'all slinging it out for free on the internet. And since you want to be flippant, give me 50 toe touches. And so Terica's the captain. And she basically says something else. She's like, you know what? Never mind. Give me 70. And so she fixes them. And so we basically see in scene 12, Keyshawn and Gidget is practicing. And while they're practicing, Mercedes is running late because she basically was about to whip the Chuckalisa Challengers' ass. The little girls. So while they practicing, we notice that Mercedes is at the top, Keyshawn's in the middle, and Gidget is at the bottom. And Keyshawn is being sensitive and is in pain. Now we think that the pain is from her breast being sore, from breastfeeding, but no. Keyshawn sprains, in quotations, her wrist from falling. And she goes in the back and she basically consult with Diamond. And Diamond basically takes care of it. And he asked her, and she asked, "What's happened?" And she was like, "I fell during practice." No, Derek beat her ass. So Diamond basically was like, "It's just a sprain." And he cuts like black peppercorns and he douses them with alcohol. He does a mixture. He says, I'm going to wrap this around your wrist. And this is a recipe I learned from my daddy. And I used to use it with the fellow soldiers when they was in Iraq. And it worked. But it don't help if you get a gunshot wound in the head. It don't work. So if you got shot anywhere else, it worked wonders. But the head, no, because it went into an organ, the brain. So he asks her something, when you going to stop falling? And then she's kind of like dumbfounded, speechless. And Cliff says, Keyshawn, bring them titties over to the baby. Because, you know, my ass can't feed her. And I was like, Clifford, stop it. So we get to scene 13 and Keyshawn is on Instagram promoting his Trinity. And so she hears Regal crying because she don't have nobody to babysit the daughter. I guess the mother had to work. So she basically asks Autumn if she could babysit Regal for her and hold her. So Autumn is basically holding her and she's having flashbacks to when she lost her daughter in the flood. So it prompts her to have bad memories of that moment. So she starts drinking a lot more. Remember I told you earlier, she doesn't hold her liquor well. She gets sloppy drunk. So the Trinity starts to perform and Uncle Clifford his moment. And he's like, you know, Trinity, Trinity, Trinity. Gidget used to work and used to cheer for Ole Miss. You're going to hear that in season 2. And Uncle Clifford's seeing, he's like, fuck it up, fuck it up, fuck it up. And Mercedes doing her set, because you know that's his bottom, bitch. When all of a sudden, notice how she was nice and respectful to Keyshawn and Gidget. But she saw Mercedes, Autumn got up on that pole. He's like, this is my other chick, Autumn Night. So Autumn, instead of just dancing and slipping, she gonna fall first. Then the bitch gonna get on a pole. And then she gonna basically slip again. And he was like, I swear, I can't with them yellow bitches. I can't do it. So Mercedes is giving a competition like, okay, you basically, you know, you want to like roll with the big dogs, the stars. Okay. So what she does is she basically climbs up on a pole and she basically climbs up, and then Autumn want to climb up to the top. But Autumn basically is so sloppy drunk that she like falls down the pole. Luckily, Mercedes got off in the nick of time. And then Mercedes is basically beating her ass. But she's beating her ass while she's dancing on top of her. And they like, F it up, F it up, F it up. And so they go in the back. And they basically, Mercedes tells her, if your yellow ass ever get on my pole again, I'ma fuck you up. And she said, I don't like sloppy bitches getting on my pole. I don't play that. And I didn't blame her for that. Now, I understood the pain. But what you don't do is be jealous of someone and basically mess up their set. That you don't do. You don't do that at all. So she told her, again, I'm going to whip your ass. So we end up with scene 14 with DJ Never Scared. And we find out from his friends that his name is Daquan. And Little Murder shows up unannounced. And he basically picks him up from school because he wants to basically work on a set. And that set is, I want to go over my music with you at the behest of Uncle Clifford. So he plays his track for him while they under the bridge called Overlove. And I like that song, Overlove. So he basically tells him in so many words, dude, you ain't got the beats right. The tambourine ain't good. And he's like, huh, you speak another language. And he's like, no, you speak another language. Because you see, your flow is more like romaine lettuce than it is a souffle. Your salad, you doing rookie stuff. You supposed to souffle that beat. Okay? So then he's like, my mama gonna make quinoa stuffing. Come over. So he's like, oh, yeah, your mother loved me and I'm gonna make you my stepson. And I'm like, little murder, you's a liar. Because you don't even like women like that. You faking it. You flogging. You really like Uncle Clifford. So we get to scene 15 and Andre and Haley, they go to the mounds, and they race to the top. And when they get to the top, they see the waterfront, and it's a date for them. And they see where the site's supposed to be at, Promised Land Casino. Now, there's another one of those justification talks, because she basically notices that he's taking more photos. So he basically says, when I was a kid here, this land was really vibrant. And then I left, and then the whole place just fell down. And he said, but with this casino, urban decay is going to basically be a thing of the past. And so he tells her the casino going to turn this town around. And he basically tells her, like, a lot of people in the South, they don't have passports. But people from the South will come all over to feel an experience like they're traveling around the world. And that would be the theme. Paris, Rome, London, Brazil, all the exotic spots. And so Autumn asks him a very good question, which is, who is it really for? How is it going to help the people? And it's not, because the people will end up being priced out. And that's the real secret. That's why he can't really tell it. So they basically get turned on, and pretty much they go to the hotel, and Autumn is really doing this hotel thing to get info and intel for Uncle Clifford so she can get her ID back. So she notices, as soon as they get to the hotel, she notices a laptop. She basically tells him, after they kiss it and everything, I need condoms. So she tells him to get one. But she says, I want you to sign into the laptop so that I could basically keep this, box wet. So she has them turn on some porn. And she does have it played in the backdrop. But instead, she really trying to download pictures of the Promised Land Casino slides to give it to Uncle Clifford. So what happens is he's basically asked the concierge at the hotel or the motel, oh, you basically got condoms? And he's like, no, but we basically got free Bibles in each room. You might want to use it. So we go to scene, I believe this is 13, 14, 15. We go to scene 16. There's a lot of scenes in this one. And we basically hear that the pastor is going to go to the Mississippi Boulevard for their revival. And he wants Elder Cardell to basically lead the sermon that Sunday. And Pastor Phony Patrice is like, and he's like, Sister Patrice Woodbine, is there a problem? And she's like, listen, I know you want your boy Cladell to basically preach, but if you want these dollars drawn from these sinners, you basically need somebody like me to be preaching for Sunday. So Cladell says, I basically see where your daughter gets it from, meaning like, now we know how Mercedes know how to get money from dudes. And she's like, don't cast stone, the person stone, she's all biblical and stuff. And so the pastor of the church says, you are the finest treasurer that this church ever had. You basically saved it. And she's like, that's how we got that bank loan, because of me. And he's like, but I want to keep tradition going, and I want to stick with Cladell, because really at the end of the day, you're a woman, and we'll try you out and stuff, but to be the main one that Sunday, it's got to be a man. And it's got to be Cardell. But Cardell is boring. He's not good like her. So this pisses her off because she got them that church loan with Mercedes money. And it basically didn't work out in her favor. But she got some ulterior motives. So while we cut to the next scene, she's downloading more material as in Autumn. In the pynk nightclub, she sees more slides. And so basically he sees the guy again, like, oh, I hope you enjoy your stay. So she's watching porn. She's downloading the file. And then he opens the doors and he noticed that she's gone and left with the laptop open with the files all there. So Autumn brings Cliff the intel while he basically is ignoring her because he's like, DJ never scares you late. Big L had to put on the Belle Biv DeVoe CD and it's driving me out of my mind. And I remember when I first heard that, I was rolling because I was like, oh my God, the double entendre with that. And so he tells him I was late because I was working on music. And he's working on music with none other than Little Murder. And so Little Murder like, what up, shawty? What up? And so Little Murder, Clifford feeling himself because he getting played from Little Murder. So we see DJ Never Scared on the ones and the twos talking about, oh, this old Shaka Lisa music from 1999. And we're going to bring our Salt and Pepper, which is Keyshawn and Gidget. So Keyshawn is on the dance floor and they doing this sequence dance. And it's very, very, sexualized. And the dancing was good. But even if I was a dancer, I couldn't do it. I couldn't basically bump another female up and down. And I couldn't basically do the legs work that they was doing. But it was good. The synchronism was good. But I just couldn't do that. So I could do it with a man, but not with a woman. And so Keyshawn ends up seeing her regular. And it's the anesthesiologist. And he got the roles. And you want to find out why he got the roles. Because he wants her to play Sleeping Beauty. So she does a strip for him. I guess because he's professional, he don't want to get caught up in something like that. So he basically takes the roses and has them in, it's not the VIP room, but I think it's like the champagne room. And he just pours them on her while she pretends to be sleeping. That's the easiest way to make money. Unless you are allergic to flowers. But anyway, Gidget's regular comes in and it's her boyfriend, Duffy. Now, they make out in a room and he says, ain't no vitamin D in the VIP like Uncle Clifford says. And she basically is like, he got me working like a slave. And Uncle Clifford said, oh, so we know it's a new day in Mississippi when a white girl complains about slavery. Okay. So then he's like, well, Duffy, what took you so long? Why you late with the connect? And he was like, look, the flood messed up the connect because the I-55 is clogged worse than my Mima's heart, which is Mima is grandma. And he was basically, Uncle Clifford was like, I'm only going to stash this one time. And he was like, but you selling weed wings. He was like, weed about to be legal. Okay? When Obama gets a third term. Now, the Constitution, the amendments, it ain't going to happen. But weed is basically legal. But I do think that was like a hint, letting the people know right then and there that Biden was going to be president. And this is some tea I'm dropping. People online say that Obama is running the house. I'm just dropping that. That's just what people have been speculating online. So he's like, listen, the weed wings is one thing, but not the Oxycontin because that's criminal. And I could lose my club. But I'm going to let you stash it this one time, but no more. So Duffy gives him the payment. And he counts the money because he was like, I don't trust white people when it comes to money. And so he was like, Sojourner, I need you back on this field picking cotton. She was like, I'll pick the cotton as long as it's green. See? And this is the theme of this episode. It's all about slavery, justification, the old South system still being at play and white people not trying to relinquish their power of whiteness. So what happens is Keyshawn is basically in pain with the wrist. And so she wants Gidget, she wants to give the drugs to Keyshawn. But the drugs is really for her mother. So he passes the powder, and it looks like cocaine, and he gives it to her. So what happens is Cliff gets the intel from Autumn that the Pink property offer has the cow farm on it for $6 million. But the Pink is a non-applicable offer, meaning that they're going to move the Pink out without offering them any money. So they're just going to eminent domain them. You see that the national park is not up for grabs and that the location is at the Delta. And the Delta basically encompasses Mississippi and Arkansas, but also it's that river, the Mississippi, and it also encompasses Tennessee. So Corbin's tract of the land is listed. And so he was like, girl, this ain't even tea. You just pour a hot grist on my ears. So it just excited him. So she's like, well, I did that thing for you. Where's my ID? And he's like, So Andre is calling. He snatches the phone. And she's like, excuse me, what she wants with the phone? So Cliff is like, text him to tell him, welcome to paradise. And text him the password, apples. So Clifford is basically trying to bring Andre over to the Pink. And so Autumn still want her ID back. And she was like, he's like, well, now just one more thing. Okay? So what happens is we basically see Maite design and sparkles on the floss for the girls. And what we basically see is Terica is online having a bad bitch party. So the girls at the Pink is looking at this. And so she goes to Shell's house. And Mercedes shuts it down. Terica tries to leave. It's like, no, you ain't running out here. And so Keyshawn is still playing Sleeping Beauty with the doctor. Andre is entering the paradise room. Diamond says, keep your eyes going. Don't look at the other girls. And then Big L's like, what's the password? And he says, apples. So he enters and he's basically like, I want to tell you something, so forth. And he's like, oh, is just another cup of tea. That's Uncle Clifford. So we go back to where Terica is basically getting shut down by Mercedes. And she's like, I know you cute, you could get it from your mother, but you're going to meet some man that's going to bend you over and you're going to deserve it. And you're going to end up 13 and pregnant. And Terica says, if I get pregnant, I'm not going to give up my baby like you gave me up. So we officially learn that Mercedes is Terica's real bio mom. And Shell is basically the stepmother because Cortez, the bio father, was having an affair with Mercedes. So Shell comes in and she says, I was down in Jackson visiting my sister who's not well. And she's like, oh, and you put Rakeem in a jacuzzi? She learned that from you. And she was like, no, she didn't. I'm the one that tried to stop it. And so she says, you know what? This is not working. I know I wanted her on a team because she loves to dance. But I think it'll be best if she goes off. I want her to focus on her grades at school and just have a positive image. And she was like, but this is the only time Mercedes, get a chance to be around my own daughter. She was like, I know, but we got to do some other kind of like restructuring because this ain't working out because Terica's ways is changing. And she's like having a bad influence. And I think it's really on you. So Mercedes is upset. So we go back to the last scene, which Uncle Cliff is like, so I want to know, what's this whole promised land deal? And he's like, Andre's like, it's confidential. And he's like, why I don't have a place in promised land? Okay? You gonna tell me something. And he was like, because let me let you know one thing, sucker. I ain't going nowhere. Okay? So Big L handled it and dominant. And I love that scene. And so what ended up happening at the end, and Autumn basically picks up the money. Because remember, in the beginning of the episode, Telex said, you gotta basically pick up your money. Because it's the final notice and you got to bring in that government ID for cash pickup. So she gets the ID finally because I guess she did everything that was needed for Uncle Clifford, you know? And I guess it was setting up the whole thing with Andre. So she picks up the money and the lady says, ooh, 30 minutes and this wire would expire. And here you go. And that's the 9K. So Autumn is basically, you know, smirking in the camera and the scene cuts. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This was an excellent episode. And it wouldn't have been this long for me to review it, but I had to mention gentrification because the Kyle brothers, Sans, Corbin, I can't stand him, especially Wyatt. Wyatt is really he's overtly racist. Kyle is covertly racist. But I'm with Corbin. Lease the motherfucking casino. Lease the land for it. Since your brothers want to be slick and spend up all the inheritance, get something out of it. But this was good. And it was like a whole bunch of scenes. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. It was so many scenes in this episode. I think more than any of them that they had. Well, I did this for almost an hour. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't for more reviews. Please comment, share, like, and hit the notification bell to receive future uploads or other commentaries. It's hot. I'll be back later on, but I gotta take a break. Later.